The final movement from Ludwig van Beethoven's Ninth Symphony is perhaps the most famous of all his works. The main theme used in the movement, to which Beethoven set Friedrich Schiller's poem An die Freude, known in English as Ode to Joy, is known by virtually everyone and has a very interesting genesis. As with all great composers, Ludwig van Beethoven recycled his thematic material. Sometimes he did this within a very short period of time, as seen with this melody, which first appeared in his ballet The Creatures of Prometheus, which was composed in 1801. It appears again in his Contredanse No. 7, written in the same year. In 1802, it will appear yet again in a large set of piano variations. And finally, in 1803, it is presented yet again, and for the very last time, in the finale of his Eroica Symphony. For the most part, this melody stays the same in these examples, and when it does change, it's only somewhat modified. Composers often do this when they enjoy a certain melody they've created, but even more often, they change the theme or motif ever so slightly in order to tell a somewhat different story with their music, and quite possibly to prevent the public from becoming bored with a certain melody. Beethoven's famous Ode to Joy melody has its origins in a short song titled Gegenliebe, which is German for Requited Love, and it is a piece which Beethoven wrote almost 30 years before the premiere of his Ninth Symphony, while he was still undergoing his musical studies. Although the theme is slightly different, it shares many characteristics with the Ode to Joy theme. These similarities will become even more clear when Beethoven uses the same exact theme yet again for his choral fantasy, written 13 years later in 1808 for piano, orchestra, and choir. "17 years later, in 1824, the orchestral language used in the choral fantasy will be perfected in the finale of his Ninth Symphony, which is considered by many to be Beethoven's most significant work. Beethoven attested to this similarity himself when he described his Ninth Symphony as being similar to the choral fantasy, but on a far grander scale. In conclusion, it is important to take away the fact that masterpieces don't appear overnight, dictated by some divine muse, but often have very humble beginnings, as is the case with Beethoven's Ode to Joy. Beethoven's entire career led up to this symphony, and a simple melody written during his studies would stay with him through most of his adult life, only to return later and become the driving force of one of the most celebrated pieces of all time.